I don't think I've ever shot a video in my studio with that much natural light and warmness around me. Normally I block the natural light completely so I can set the light myself. But yeah, this is a different look. Which one do you prefer? The natural look or the darker one with some colorful lights around? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm interested to hear back from you guys. Anyway, today we'll be talking about this lens right here. This is a $40 additional lens for the Mavic Air 2 made by Freewell. It's an anamorphic lens and it's meant to make your footage more cinematic by giving it a wider look with black bars on top and bottom, and also giving you lens flares when you point your drone towards any light. Normally this is a feature which is reserved for high-end expensive cinema cameras, so being able to have something like this on the Mavic Air 2 is quite interesting, so that's why I decided to check it out and let you know whether it's a good purchase or not. Before we start though, I want to make a quick announcement. Tomorrow is my 31st birthday, believe it or not, and to celebrate that I will be lowering the prices of all of my LUTs and presets on my web store by 31% for the next 31 hours. 31 seems like a really cool number, so why not take advantage of that? And if you want to know how I color grade my drone footage and how I edit my drone photos, these are my resources. These are the things that I use on a daily basis when I edit, and they're all discounted by 31% for the next 31 hours. So link in the description, and let's begin with the anamorphic lens review. Starting off with the box, this is what you get when you order the anamorphic lens from Freewell. And of course, the first thing you'll notice is that it's a box that holds 4 filters and it only has one. I think Freewell has some issues with their packaging, as they regularly do that. They send a filter which comes in a huge box and it's just one filter. So I think they need to design a new package for those single filters, because it's just weird to have a large box that only has one filter inside. It has 3 empty spots. Anyway, that's besides the point. The filter itself, or should I say the lens itself, is a regular looking lens. It looks like an ND filter, but it's a bit wider. And one thing that I immediately noticed, and I asked them if that's meant to be like that, is the fact that you cannot put this on your drone and put the gimbal lock on. So if you put this on your lens, you will not be able to use the gimbal protection, which is a bit weird, but it goes a bit further away than a regular ND filter, so maybe that's the reason why it doesn't have too much space for you to lock your gimbal. So if you want to use that, you will need to put it in the box and keep it with you in the bag, and once you plan to use it, then you need to install it. Another thing when talking about ND filters and stuff is the fact that obviously when using the anamorphic lens, you will not be able to use ND filters, which kind of defeats the purpose of cinematic footage, as you will have to use a higher shutter speed to compensate for the amount of light that you are getting. And normally this is what ND filters are for, but now you won't be able to use an ND filter. So keep that in mind. If you really want to use an ND filter, the anamorphic lens will not be good for you. And the best way to take advantage of this anamorphic lens is to use it when there is light around, but it's not too much. So personally, I wouldn't use it during noon, for example, because then I'll have to use a very high shutter speed, which is something that I don't like. So for me, the best scenarios to use an anamorphic lens is during sunrise or sunset. That is also when you will be probably shooting directly at the sun to get those sun flares. So for that, the anamorphic lens is great. Getting those sun flares is not as easy as you might expect. It's not as easy as just turning the camera towards the light and expecting a sun flare. You'll have to move around so you can allow the light to create that sun flare. But once you do that, the results are pretty good, I would say. And during my usage of the anamorphic lens, I didn't notice any vignetting, any color shift, any lack of sharpness or anything like that. Everything looked great. So I'm quite happy with the quality of the footage that this lens provides. Now, after you take the footage with your drone, you will want to start editing, of course. And you will notice that your footage looks a bit weird. And that is because the anamorphic lens squeezes your footage and you have to de-squeeze it yourself in your editing software. It's very, very easy to do. So I'm going to give you an example in Final Cut Pro 10, and the project size and the little tweaks that you have to make. It takes literally 30 seconds to make a project which is going to fit anamorphic footage. So for me, I set my project size to 3840 by 1878, and this is a 4K project for anamorphic footage. Then you'll need to import all of your files, and to make it all easier, just drag them all to your timeline, select all of them, and go to Scale X and set it to 115%. Immediately after that, you will see that this footage actually is de-squeezed, it's not squished so much, and it looks natural to the human eye. Here's a little before and after, so you can see the difference de-squeezing makes to your anamorphic footage. And after that, you're good to go. You can start editing your footage the same way you would edit any other type of footage, and you'll have those cinematic looking lens flares in your shots. So personally, I like the anamorphic lens by Freewell for $40. I think it is a good, fair price for what it is. But I wouldn't use it every single time I fly, obviously. I think it has its place in specific scenarios, and since using ND filters on my drones is something that I take as something very seriously, and I almost never fly without an ND filter, I think the anamorphic lens will be used by me only in specific scenarios, maybe when I'm shooting the sunrise or the sunset, and I believe a sun flare could make a really nice difference in the footage itself. You don't want to overdo it in your footage. You don't want to have lens flares every single shot, and you know, it's just going to take away a lot of attention from your viewer, and it's not classy. So personally, I would use it from time to time, and I think it's a nice addition to the Mavic Air 2. I'm going to leave a link in the description if you want to buy one yourself. And that's pretty much it. I hope you liked today's video. I hope you liked the results I got with the Mavic Air 2 and the anamorphic lens from Freewell. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.